Good morning and welcome to the decision session for Executive Member for Economy and Strategic Planning. I'm Councillor Andrew Waller and we'll go through the meeting as published. So in terms of item 1, declarations of interest, I don't have anything that isn't already on the register of interests on the council website. Item 2 is the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, the 26th of January. I'm happy to approve those and we'll sign those when we get back into West offices and we're signing things again. So that brings us on to item 3, public participation. I understand that there are not any members of the public or members of council registered to speak. So that brings us on to item 4, which is the inclusive growth update. I don't know, Simon or Tracy, do you want to give a summary of this? Right.
Thank you very much, Councillor Waller. So you have a report in front of you and an annex, which is the revised evidence base on inclusive growth. I won't go through the full detail of what's in there. It's largely a review of the projects which we went through in more detail last October. However, there are 2 of those projects that I do want to update you a bit more on. The first of those, which is around developing a poverty commission for York. You'll recall we've been working with some third sector partners around that project. They have found it difficult to identify suitable match funding for the approach that we were looking at taking. So we're proposing actually that we do a more detailed review of that project and try and find some other partners to work with. It's particularly pertinent at the moment as we work towards our economic strategy, which other reports to you at some of your other decision sessions have looked in at more detail. But a strong part of what we've said in terms of our inclusive growth strategy has been about making sure that the voices of those who have benefited least from previous economic strategies are very much heard within developing the new strategy. And that was very much part of what we had hoped that Poverty Commission could achieve. So it's particularly important as we work towards our economic strategy, which will be developing over the summer, as we previously said, that we do get those voices heard. So proposing to go away and talk to some other potential partners, still third sector partners, around how we can get some of those voices into the project. I won't go into more detail until we've spoken to those partners, but I hope that that's an acceptable approach which we can develop at pace, and clearly we'll report back at the next time we report on inclusive growth would be in June, but I would have hoped that we would be some way down the road with that project by then. And then the other project, particularly important at the moment, the issue of mental health has come through very strongly in terms of our work with the business networks. Spoke in some detail about that at the Outbreak Management Board a couple of weeks ago, and there's a link in the paper for anyone who wants to see that discussion, which was very helpful. We had a project in the programme that was looking at match funding into some work on with Nesta, the funding organisation. It was called a Good Help project. That project's fallen by the wayside because a bid to the National Lottery was unsuccessful. So there remains 25,000 in the budget to spend on work around mental health. And clearly, as I said, it's a real live issue at the moment in the business community, particularly for small business owners who are facing the challenge of trying to keep their employees in work and trying to keep their businesses going. As an initial step towards what we might do with that budget, we've had an outline discussion with University of York St John, who have real expertise in terms of the occupational health department in terms of mental health. And we have our approach which we're beginning to sketch out there, which would begin with a rapid review of what might be possible, working very closely with our colleagues in business networks, so with the Federation of Small Businesses and the Chamber, to scope that out and then to bring forward a package of support which we'd like to be able to deliver over the next couple of months, using that budget and trying to identify what else there might be to support. So that's the outline of what we're hoping to develop, and clearly can answer any more specific questions you have about that, but would like to recommend that actually we progress and try and get some work really happening around that mental health theme over the next few weeks and months. So I'd say the evidence base is there for you. The unemployment figures remain what they were previously. Well, I should say previously what they were earlier in the year. There's been no recent increase in terms of unemployment in York. It's still up at around the 5,000 level. The work on apprenticeships, which I know is something that's very close to your heart. The Kickstart scheme, which the government announced, is still progressing. We'd hope that we might be able to do something through our colleagues at York Learning in terms of offering brokerage for small businesses around that. That's proved not to be possible, but work is progressing on that indeed. Now our colleagues in the skills service are involved in a call this afternoon to look at the detail for how that comes forward. While it hasn't been a fantastic success, I think so far national coverage on that has shown that some of the weaknesses in the model. I'm pleased to report that, for instance, LNER have taken on 16 Kickstarts apprentices in York, and there are plenty of businesses out there willing to get involved. We're just exploring what more we can do to support small businesses within that scheme. So I think we'll leave my summary at that. The report goes into some more detail on the other projects, and I'd say the evidence base is there as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Simon. I'm very keen that work is progressed in the inclusion area, and if projects have not received funding from other partners, I wouldn't want to see City of York Council funding just sitting there, because this is evidence that is necessary for the economic strategy which has been developed, and there is a need for work to take place in the city, recognising that for some families they are in significant financial dire straits at the moment, and anything that can be done to improve their situation is really something that as an authority we need to be seen to be doing. I'm aware of the work that's being done with a number of different organisations on the mental health of employees and employers, because this situation has been running for such a long period of time, and people are anxious and have had a number of responsibilities put on them which they hadn't quite anticipated. So I think that's there's been a number of very positive case studies around the city of organisations and businesses that have been very proactive in this field, and I think showcasing that, prompting other organisations to take up what's on offer if they're not a large organisation that's able to do it in-house. But I would very much support the proposals that you've brought forward to enable council money that had been allocated for inclusive growth to be used for inclusive growth. And I'm grateful for the update on the other projects, noting that the community job fairs, there's already been an officer decision earlier in the year to help that go virtual in terms of connecting people who need jobs with vacancies in the city. So I think that's an important feature that we've got to keep going, and I'm grateful for the work that's gone into making sure that that can take place in these current circumstances. So I think that I'm very much supportive of the proposals within the paper, and I agree with the recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that brings us on to item 5, which is urgent business. I haven't been informed of any, and therefore we'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you very much.